and we will allow those religious liberties to be protected so that one of those major tenets of American principles and values of religious liberty is protected in all of our public square. That includes our schools.
Tonight, we are digging into religion in public schools. It comes as State Superintendent Ryan Walters works to launch the Office of Liberty and Patriotism.
As Fox 25's Paige Taylor explains, it's one of many efforts we've seen from OSDE since Walters took office.
Ryan Walters assumed the role of State Superintendent in January of 2023 and has been on a mission to ensure religious freedom in Oklahoma public schools. When Bible verses were removed from a Skiatook classroom in September of last year, Walters expressed support for teachers practicing religion in their classroom.
What we've seen and heard from so many Oklahomans is a frustration of individual rights being trampled in the classroom. We saw a teacher in Skiatook that was told to take down Bible verses off the wall. We've heard stories of teachers having to remove their crucifix necklace from the classroom.
In December, Walters announced OSDE was going to pass rules to ensure the department was doing all it could to stand for individuals' religious freedom in Oklahoma. Fast forward to June of this year, and Walters announced the requirement of the Bible, including the Ten Commandments, in all Oklahoma classrooms and said all districts must comply. Walters asked for $3 million to fund Bibles in classrooms. In August, the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled that St. Isidore, which would have been the first religious charter school, as unconstitutional. Walters is now taking on the U.S. Supreme Court in the case alongside Governor Stitt. On Tuesday, Walters announced the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism within OSDE. He tells Fox 25 he wants Oklahoma to be the state most protecting of religious liberty.
And so we thought it was important to make sure that we have these services in one spot, so if a parent, teacher, or student has an issue, they can direct it to one office, we can get to the bottom of it. If we need to launch an investigation, if we need to change some practices, we can do so very quickly.
He says OSDE will be active in ensuring President Trump's agenda for education is put forth in Oklahoma, and that the creation of this new office falls in line with one of Trump's top education priorities.
You don't tell people that when they come to school they can never mention God, they can never learn about the role that Christianity played in American history. That creates state-sponsored atheist centers where you're lying to kids. If you're telling kids that the Bible and Christianity never played a role in American history, you are literally lying to them.
Paige Taylor, Fox 25 News.
Walters says school districts will receive guidance in the coming days, laying out the steps to take to ensure the right to pray in school is safeguarded.
Concerns have been raised about several other religious displays in schools. In June of last year, a Tulsa Public Schools board member said led a prayer at a high school graduation ceremony before diplomas were handed out. Take a look.
I pray in the name of Jesus Christ that each one of you would walk forward from this moment in the excellence and love of God, that He would guide you, direct you, and draw you to your ultimate goal in the name of Jesus.
It lasted less than 30 seconds, but it sparked a month-long controversy. According to board member Elena Ashley, the school board president emailed her stating there have been numerous complaints from the school community members about her adding a religious prayer to the commencement statement. The president also told her the prayer was not allowed under the U.S. Constitution and rulings by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Freedom from Religion Foundation also sent a letter to TPS saying a school board member co-opting a public school graduation ceremony in order to promote their personal religious beliefs and ask students to engage in a religious ritual is inappropriate and unconstitutional. While this controversy was playing out, an attorney at the Oklahoma Center for Constitutional Analysis told us 10 years ago what Ashley did would have been a problem, but that may not be the case now.
Yes, Elena was a public official. Yes, it was a public event. Historically, that had been problematic. But with the new way that the court is swinging in favor of telling organizations, we got to draw that line more in favor of free exercise clause and not so much in favor of the establishment clause. I think she's got an excellent case.
At the time, TPS issued a statement saying Tulsa Public Schools is a district that celebrates and values students, families, and team members from all backgrounds, religions, and cultures.
Another issue raised by the Freedom from Religion Foundation daily prayer broadcasts at Prague Elementary School during morning announcements. An FFRF attorney wrote to the district superintendent last November saying, quote, the First Amendment prohibits a public school from hosting or sponsoring prayer even if it's student-led. The FFRF said this case was more egregious because Prague Elementary School was hosting the prayer during the school day when all students and employees were required to be present, and argues they alienated non-religious students and employees. The district's legal counsel responded saying the district agrees the prayers were inappropriate for a public school district and would ensure it does not occur in the future.
A Bible verse displayed inside Western Oaks Middle School was removed back in March after Putnam City Public Schools received an inquiry from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which called the display unconstitutional. You can see the passage from the book of Ephesians was posted in the hallway above 2 classroom doors. The FFRF attorney argued it violated the First Amendment by creating the appearance that the district prefers religion over non-religion and Christianity over all other faiths. According to the FFRF, the district responded saying they took it down over spring break.
Now, the argument that's like the ones we just talked about, go back to the Establishment Clause in the First Amendment, states Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Up until about 2 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court used the Lemon test to evaluate whether a law or the government actively violated the Establishment Clause. First, the law or government action had to have a secular purpose, meaning it's not affiliated with a church or faith. Second, it had to have a predominantly secular effect. And third, it could not foster excessive entanglement between government and religion. However, in 2022, the Lemon test was abandoned after the Kennedy versus Bremerton ruling. But how far does that U.S. Supreme Court case go in spelling out what religious activity can happen in public schools? That's what we're asking after the Oklahoma State Superintendent cited the ruling when announcing the Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism yesterday.
Fox 25's Tom Ferguson joins us live from the State Department of Education. So, Tom, tell us more about the case at the center of this.
Adam and Wendy, Kennedy v. Bremerton dealt with Joe Kennedy, who was a football coach. His Washington State School District told him he couldn't pray after games, but the Supreme Court said not so fast. But how does this apply here in Oklahoma? Well, here's what we're being told.
Oddly enough, it's the same school district that I went to.
Attorney A.J. Ferrati represented Kennedy. He says the U.S. Supreme Court ruling applies to all districts and all faith backgrounds.
The Establishment Clause does not prevent free exercise or free speech from occurring. He was not speaking as an employee of the school district during his 15-second prayer. He's allowed to pray. He's allowed to exercise his faith freely in those moments.
But does the Kennedy ruling greenlight all of Walter's current initiatives like biblical education and prayer in public schools and that Office of Religious Liberty and Patriotism?
It's being misused and misinterpreted, and it does not provide support for the kinds of things that Ryan Walters is trying to do.
According to Alex Luchenitzer with Americans United for Separation of Church and State, the Kennedy ruling was pretty narrow in its scope. He said the Supreme Court ruled in favor of
private, silent prayer apart from students when he was not performing his official duties. Public schools should not be turned into Sunday schools.
Luchenitzer argued Walters is trying to set the stage for teachers to indoctrinate students with religion. Walters had this to say in response.
What we see is indoctrination from the left that try to tell students that boys can be girls, that this country's an evil, racist country.
And legal disputes over the Bible education mandate and the Catholic virtual charter school are still making their way through the courts. We'll be keeping an eye on where those cases go. Live in Oklahoma City, Tom Ferguson, Fox 25 News.
Tom, thank you. Following the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in Joe Kennedy's case in 2022, he was reinstated as a high school football coach. In March of last year, the Bremerton District announced it had reached an agreement to settle Kennedy's attorney fees for more than $1.7 million. Despite returning to the sidelines as a coach for Bremerton High School during the 2023 season, Kennedy ended up resigning after just one game. Last month, the movie Average Joe was released. It's based on Kennedy's court battle and details the impact it had on his marriage. Kennedy told Fox News he hopes his story will inspire people to keep fighting and realize God can use anyone to accomplish big things.
Religion in the classroom catching the attention of President-elect Donald Trump. Back in June, he endorsed the idea of schools having the 10 Commandments in classrooms. And at a rally, Trump spoke to a group of political political people there that he was talking with, evangelical Christians, telling them to go vote, and where he expressed his support of the idea. This came after a new law was signed in Louisiana that requires the Ten Commandments to be displayed in schools. Now, Trump posted a statement on his app, Truth Social, saying he loves the Ten Commandments in public schools and in many other places. Now, a federal judge temporarily blocking that Louisiana law that would require the Ten Commandments to be displayed in every public classroom. The legislation was passed by state lawmakers back in June. It was set to go into effect January 1st. That law would apply to K-12 schools and public colleges. The judge ruled the law is unconstitutional and had an overtly religious purpose. Proponents of that measure argue the Ten Commandments have historical significance to the foundation of U.S. law.
In Louisiana, we believe in faith, family, and freedom, and we believe that this country was founded on that. You can look at the walls of the Supreme Court. They even have a picture of the Ten Commandments.
If I'm going to send my child to public school, I want them to be educated on everything but religion. If I wanted them to be educated on religion, I'd send them to a private school that teaches religion.
Days after the bill was signed, many groups filed lawsuits against it. Louisiana's Attorney General vowed that she will appeal that decision. That was your big story breakdown. You can learn more about religion in schools on OKCFox.com.
Plus, you can find all of our previous big story breakdowns on our YouTube page. Just scan the QR code that is right there on your screen or search OKC Fox.